30 creepy true sightings that no one believes. According to Reddit. Number 30. Drove for about 2 hours through rural Arizona with my fiance late one night. I drove past a car stopped on the side of the road. It had its hazard lights on and the hood was up. There was a dim light hanging from the hood as if someone had been checking the engine. About a quarter mile down the road, my headlights illuminated a man standing on the side of the road. He was quite tall, over 6 feet, very thin. He was ghostly pale and bald. To me, the most unsettling thing was that he was just standing on the shoulder, in the pitch black, staring into the desert, away from the road. There was no light except for the few cars passing by, and he was just staring into the wilderness, into the blackness of the desert. It wasn't supernatural or anything, I'm sure, but it sends shivers down my spine. My fiance was asleep almost the entire 2-hour drive, so she didn't see any of this, and she doesn't really believe that it happened. You not believe a guy just staring out? That's unbelievable. Number 29. I was in the Persian Gulf on the now decommissioned ship, the USS Nassau. I was working mids and performing a weather observation sometime between 2 and 4 a.m. I saw multiple lights begin to move through the sky faster than any I've ever seen before. Back and forth. Almost too fast to track with my eyes, too fast to be an airplane, too fast to be a shooting star. Then suddenly, they came to center on my horizon. They vibrated for a second and shot out of eyesight up into the sky. It's still the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Number 28. I was riding bikes after grabbing some movies from Family Video. This was nearly 10 years ago. I saw a man pull in full Ronald McDonald makeup and wig, and he was driving your run-of-the-mill pedophile van. Is that okay for YouTube? I guess that's where the real scary comes in. Sousaphone girl. This girl knows how to get down. Let me open that link for later. Number 27. I was out camping near Crater Lake, alone. Trekked in about 10 miles from the trail with very light gear, and made camp on the ridge overlooking this valley. I wake up in the middle of the night to a shouting in the distance. I look down in the valley and see 2 flashlights moving in one direction. I figure it's some campers, night hiking, or maybe playing a game. So I just observe. It becomes apparent that they're looking for someone. I can barely hear them, but once in a while, they shout. Like, we will find you or come out. I can't remember exactly, but it was like they were toying with someone. Hide and seek? That's what I'm thinking. Weird, but whatever. Eventually, I see both lights turn suddenly and bolt in one direction. From what I can make out, they found who they were looking for. Again, I can't see much except for the flashlight beams. The 2 flashlight people are laughing maniacally, and now it's creepy. Then I hear a loud woman scream, and the movement of the light stops in one spot, and she continues to scream. It then sounds like she's being beaten and raped. I have no clue what to do. I'm unarmed, I'm quite far from them, so I pack up camp and decide to head to the ranger station. There's no cell phone service. It's rough terrain at night, and I'm off trail with no GPS, and while I had a great sense of direction normally, at night I can't see my landmarks. So to be safe, I stop and decide to wait for sun to come up. I hardly sleep, and as the sun comes up, I figure out where I am and continue back to my car and the ranger station. I finally arrive exhausted, but the station is closed. I find the number of the park service and make a report. They thank me and said that they'd send out search and rescue. I follow the news the next couple of days, but I don't hear anything, and I'm extremely curious. So I call back the park service and ask to speak to the same guy that I filed the report with. Apparently, they found the people almost immediately, all camped out together. After some questioning, it comes out that they were playing a sex game rape fantasy in the woods. It was a relief to learn that no one was harmed. But that freaks me the fuck out. Speaking of harmed, if the dude telling the story was armed, the story could have went a hell of a lot different. Keep that shit behind closed doors, people. Keep that shit behind closed doors. Number 26. Snowmobiling in northern Ontario, I saw a light in the sky that looked to be flashing, something like Morse code. Woke up beside my snowmobile 5 hours later. But it seemed like no time had passed. Someone here is trying to dismiss it by saying that he had a seizure. But it's always funny how everyone seems to know exactly what happened to somebody when they weren't there. Number 25. I was once waiting for the metro in Shanghai and saw a woman in tears frantically run past. She stopped dead in her tracks and seemed to be searching for a train on either platform, but there were none coming. She was yelling something, but I didn't speak the language, so I don't know what it was. She then runs into a nearby bathroom, and about 30 seconds later, 2 men in ordinary clothes came barreling down the escalator. They were shouting, but again, I don't know what. They began walking up and down the track, and they're yelling. They went into the bathroom that the woman was seemingly hiding in, and a few seconds later, they emerged, dragging the woman away. She was screaming, crying, and fighting like hell to get away from them, but the men just kept screaming back at her, shaking her violently and striking the back of her head while they forcibly carried her to the stairs. Everyone on the platform just gawked, mouths agape, but no one did a thing. And then mere seconds later, the entire scene was over. And people were back to staring at their phones, as if whatever the hell that was hadn't happened. That's how life goes. Ooh-wee. As we continue up the list, we arrive at number 24. Wife and I were stargazing one night, and we saw a brownish red light in the sky, same size as a star and slowly moving westish/eastish. You know, those sound like 2 completely different directions. Thank you, Prelude. We've seen the ISS before, and it was moving at a similar pace, so we assume that's what it was. Then, it made a perfect 90-degree turn, no drop in velocity, and continued southish until we lost sight of it behind our tree line. We decided that if we told anyone, they'd think we were crazy, so that was the end of it. She betrayed me and told her brother, with the expected results, but it did give me one freebie. Enjoy. Number 23. Kind of seen, kind of experience. Thank you, Nat. I appreciate you. When I was about 15 years old, school night, I woke up in the middle of the night. I remember looking at the clock. It was around 1:30 in the morning. I went to the kitchen to make some hot tea to take back to bed with me. Now, our kitchen was attached to the dining room, which was a step down from the kitchen. The kitchen and the dining room both had a large sliding glass door and big windows facing the backyard, all on the same wall. The cabinets and the counter were, you know how I fucking feel about this, were where we kept the tea and was on the opposite wall of the windows. It made a little corner. I remember walking into the kitchen with the lights off and going to the tea corner of the kitchen. I was standing in the corner looking at the windows and sliding glass doors. I felt like someone was watching me through them. I had a gut feeling. You know the one. I stood there for about a minute, very still, like maybe they wouldn't see me if I didn't move. Then I went back to my room without making tea, and when I got back to my room, the clock read 5 a.m. I had been standing in the kitchen for 3.5 hours, and I had no idea that was possible, because it only felt like maybe a minute. To this day, it is still the weirdest thing that has ever happened to me, and my mom never believed me when I told her because she never felt anything bad in our house. I never did either. But that night, I absolutely did. Number 22. One time our family dog ran away. He was super shy and scared easily. We got him from an animal testing lab, so we gathered all our friends and family, which we could get our hands on, and shortly after he bailed, there were numerous search parties. After a whole day of searching without any sign of the dog, the sun was finally beginning to set. I was standing on the edge of the forest where I searched and called for the whole day, and suddenly I saw a deer just 15 meters from me staring directly into my eyes. We stared at each other for at least a minute. No movement, no sound. Then I asked with a soothing voice, keep it together. Did you happen to come across a lost beagle? I swear to God till this day, the deer nodded and looked down on the ground where it was standing. Then it jumped away into the woods. I was thinking to myself that I just imagined that nod, and the dog could not sit next to the deer without making any noise. But I could not check. And yes, there he was, sitting in the exact same spot, scared to death and shaking with fear. I gasped, cuddled the dog, took him on my arm, and looked into the woods where the deer disappeared. There it was again, staring at me, directly in my eyes. I had tears of joy and was so unbelievably grateful, while at the same time confused as fuck. Since that day, I never ate deer again. They don't pay me enough to read this with a straight face. Number 21. About 7 or 8 years ago, I visited a friend a few cities over. They live in a fairly rural area, some forested area behind their house. It was a house then. Thank you, Nat.
Take an erg.
Take a what? Take an erg? What? What the hell? Whatever, I love you. About 7 or 8 years ago, I visited a friend a few cities over. They live in a fairly rural area with some forested area behind their house. Thank you, Nat. Damn, girl. I like what you got going on. It was a house that was situated with a 30-foot fence. And maybe 200-ish feet beyond the fence is this forested area. My friend and his family claimed spooky shit happened in the forested area, but I didn't believe it. Nevertheless, this kind of thing really fascinates me, so while I don't believe in the paranormal or the supernatural, it's still interesting to humor the thought. I brought a hat with me when I stayed with them. It was a black hat with Jimi Hendrix's signature embroidered on it. It was my favorite hat at the time. I was told by my friend that if I tossed the hat beyond the fence, not necessarily into the forested area, it'd appear in or close to their house. So I did. I tossed it over the fence one night, and lo and behold, in the morning it was on their front porch. Okay, anyone could have done that. If it was your favorite hat and it was signatured by a guy, why would you toss it over a fence? Come on, man. Make it believable. Make it believable. Okay. Nothing spooky about it. I tried it again a couple of times with the same end result, on their porch or my belongings indoors each time, and each time monitoring my friend in the process to make sure he doesn't go grab it or move it. Whatever. His brother or sister might be in on it. I took one of my friend's items, unbeknownst to him, a belt buckle, and threw it over the fence, noting where I had tossed it so I could go back to grab it later. I didn't have to, because it suffered the same fate on the front porch a couple of hours later. This one confused me, but I was still skeptical, so I chalked it up to one of their family members seeing me do it. This all culminated when my friend and I went into the forested area one night. We brought flashlights. I wore my hat. After a few minutes in, the flashlight went out. Both of our flashlights went out at the same time. He stopped and told me to run back. I did not question him. There might be a wild animal or something, and I don't care to get bit or harmed, so I bolted. To note is that he sprinted a few seconds before so he had a measurable head start. In the process, I dropped my hat. I didn't care. I ran. When we got back inside the house, my hat was waiting for me in my suitcase. No one was with us, especially no one who could have grabbed my hat and went the long way back to the house faster than us. My friend didn't grab it either, since he was already gone when I had dropped it. To compound this, we were the only ones at the house that night, and it was locked. I still don't understand to this day, but I did leave my hat with him, half wishing it would appear at home several hundred kilometers away, but no dice. Some other weird shit happened, but this was the biggest example of weirdness. Number 20. I once lost 30 minutes just getting up from the couch and pouring myself some Pepsi. A trip that should have taken 2 minutes. A lot of lost time stories here. Number 19. 3:30 a.m. My buddy and I spent the night repoing cars. We pulled up to the light in Manchester, New Jersey, going straight. In the left turn lane, getting onto the 70 East, a blue 97 to 98 Honda CRV. The person driving had no face. Just blank, like the green man from Always Sunny or No Face from Dick Tracy. My buddy and I both saw it, and nobody believed it. So it could have been a mask. Number 18. Was stargazing with my family and noticed a satellite moving slowly across the sky. Looking kind of like this, for those who don't know. That's the end of that. My uncle says, "Oh, there's another one," and points at another light moving slowly across the sky. My aunt goes, "Wow, look how many," and points to a cluster of about 15 to 20 white dots. It looks like a bunch of satellites slowly moving in a cluster together across the sky. "Wow, that's weird," we all collectively agreed as we watched the cluster of unknown lights move across the sky. They then came to a dead stop. Instantly. The lights then began to slowly move around each other until they eventually were in a single line across the sky, and they slowly faded away into the darkness. We still have no idea what the hell they were, and the only thing that makes me know that I wasn't just seeing this is that all 6 of us saw this happening. Ugh. Number 17. The silver Tic Tac. The thing that the FA-18 Super Hornet recorded in 2004 that you can now see on YouTube. It was in 2010 over Olympia, or at least from my vantage point, that's what it looked like. I was in a boat on Henderson Bay with my parents, so there are 2 people who believe me. We saw this silvery ovalish thing flying at incredible speeds. 1 second it's over the city, the next it'd be by the Olympics. It did this dancing back and forth, juking, jigging, and then finally just paused on a dime over the city. It then went vertical and just vanished. The thing that unraveled my dad was the fact that it was silent. He's a retired engineer and said that we should be hearing sonic booms at the speed that this thing was moving at. The way it flashed between the city and the Olympics was unreal. It was broad daylight, no clouds. Then 8 years later, I see the same thing with that Hornet footage. I don't know what we saw, but it broke the laws of physics as I understand them. Oh yeah, this is the released UFO footage, for those who don't know about that. For those who don't know about that. Oh boy. Oh boy. Why they release a little bit of footage, you know, out of nowhere, and not release it all? You know there's more. You know there's more. Number 16. Used to live in a 2-story house with 5 dudes. The upstairs had a kitchen with a sliding glass door out to the deck. The downstairs had a family downstairs. Okay. The downstairs had a family room with one of those enclosed staircases that turned at the bottom so that you couldn't see the person coming down until around the last 4 steps. One day I'm playing Super Nintendo with one of the guys, and we're the only 2 at home. We heard the sliding glass door open and then slam shut. Then very loud and very fast footsteps pounding down the stairs, and then suddenly, nothing. Nobody came. We both looked at each other like, what the fuck was that? I called out the name of my boyfriend since it was close to the time that he comes home from work. Total silence. The two of us slowly crept upstairs to find the slider was locked and nobody else was home. We noped the fuck outside to chain smoke cigarettes until my boyfriend came home 20 minutes later. None of our roommates or my boyfriend ever believed us. That was hands down the freakiest shit I've ever experienced, and I was not alone, so I knew I wasn't crazy. That thump, 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 thump coming at us like a goddamn exorcist down the stairs. Well. Bing my bong. Number 15. About 4 years ago now, I was working late, dealing with some closing issues. Took longer than usual, so I ended up being the last to leave. It was pretty late. It was around 8 p.m. I guess that's like late compared to when you're supposed to leave, as opposed to just late in general. My place of work isn't in the middle of nowhere, nor is it in a bad part of town. It's in a normal, nice area, but it's usually abandoned after 7 p.m. Bitch, where do you live, Old Peopleville? When I get outside, I hop in my car and prepare to pull out of the street. This could be the creepypasta in itself. Just ends like right there. And no one's outside after 7 p.m. As I stop, I look both ways. I suddenly notice two figures standing to my left on the sidewalk. The thing is, they were both dressed in whitish bodysuits from head to toe and rapidly approaching my car, as in headed straight for the driver's door with little room to mistake their intent. Whatever the end goal might have been, I fucking hoofed the gas down and turned down the street like a motherfucker. My mirror showed them both moving my way on foot, which alarmed me since I live in the nearby neighborhood, barely a 5-minute walk from here. Didn't think beyond getting home and locking the door. Nobody else was on the street near the parking lot or anything. My town isn't known for dangerous types or shenanigans, but fuck me if that didn't scare the shit out of me. Two stranger assholes in head-to-toe bodysuits? It wasn't Halloween. They look suspicious, conspicuous as hell. But nobody else saw them. What the fuck? As we knock out the remaining 14 entries on the list of 30 creepy true sightings that no one believes, 14 reads. A few years back, my dad and I headed deep into Utah country to watch the Perseid meteor showers. We were leaning against our car when we heard the loudest screeching sound coming from the darkness. We didn't stay to find out what it was. We jetted into the car and we bolted the fuck out of there. Could have been a mountain lion, yeah. Number 13. When I was little, between 6 and 11 years old, I'd experienced what I later found out to be Alice in Wonderland syndrome. We can read that now. Alice in Wonderland syndrome is a disorienting neuropsychological condition that affects perception. People experience size distortion, such as micropsia or macropsia, palopsia, and teleopsia. Size distortion may occur of other sensory modalities. It is often associated with migraines and the use of psychoactive drugs. It can also be the initial symptom of the Epstein-Barr virus. That is so sad. I had no idea. Wow. My blanket would feel like it was 6 inches thick. My room would grow longer as I looked down across my bed. My stuffed animals would get smaller. I could hear echoes of pretty much any little sound, and sometimes I felt like I was shrinking. I'm not sure why it stopped, but I'm definitely happy it did. Now this is a dope one. It earned itself a Kyle upvote. Wow. Number 12. My wife and I were driving up through northern Arizona on Highway 89 between Flagstaff and Page. It was around 1 a.m., and as we're on our third shift at the time and often drove at night to avoid traffic, I saw a few sets of eyes glowing in my headlights a little ways up the road. So I let off the gas, slowing down to avoid hitting an animal in the road. When we drove by, we saw several dogs, coyotes, on the side of the road, and I hit the gas and drove by. After we passed, my wife said that one of them was running next to the car, and I look over and saw it as well, probably 20 feet off the shoulder of the road. I floored it and looked over, and it stood up on its hind legs and kept pace with us for a couple of seconds, bitch, before turning away from the road and disappearing. This whole event probably lasted no more than 10 seconds, but it was seriously the most terrifying 10 seconds of my fucking life. Nope. This was probably 20 years ago, and we still rarely talk about it, my dude. Nope. Whoa, back to back. They're all dope as hell now as we get to the top of this list. Forgive me, that shit really gets me because the mental image is so strong. I apologize. As we obliterate the remaining 11 on the list of 30 creepy true sightings that no one believes. Number 11 reads, I was 6 years old and remember playing in my room, and my grandpa walks in and talks to me for a few minutes. After a bit, he gets up and tells me to be a good kid for mom, and then he leaves, and he was never there, and he was dead the whole time. Miles away in a different state. Kisses me on the forehead, walks out. Mom comes in 5 minutes later, hysterical, and told me my grandpa had died overnight, and we had to leave to go to be with the family 2 states over where he lived. How did I know that? Oh, then who was phone? What? Where did he get the AIDS? Number 10. When I was about 12 or 13 years old, I woke up in the middle of the night and smelled my father's cologne. Thought it was a little odd since he lived about an hour away, but I was too tired to care. I went back to sleep, woke up the next morning, and for some reason my mother didn't wake me up for skew. My father had passed away the night before. Are these all going to be the same variation? Please. I can only take so much. Never told anyone for years about that night, but around the age of 23, I told my mom she was glad to know that she wasn't crazy. That same night, she got startled awake, and the dog was standing at the door wagging its tail, almost like he was saying goodbye before fully leaving. Man, if that kind of shit is even possible, it'd be fucking spooky as hell. Number 9. I was dozing in the couch at my parents' place last year. Not comfortably, because I was cold. Then I felt a wave of heat pass over me, which was pleasant enough until I felt these firm, pointed fingertips on my head. Like something was standing behind me with its hand on my scalp. I was frightened. But then I grabbed them and threw them off of me. A few minutes later, my mom came in and said that she heard a door open and had got the feeling that she should check on me. Probably a dream, but it was super, super creepy. We got these armchair commenters just they're out here like, sounds to me like hallucinations from sleep paralysis. Yeah, you got like, man, my God. I feel like we could have like video proof with an alien coming out of a ship And some guy in the comment section would just be like, man, I've seen a lot of swamp gas, and this is that. This is swamp gas. I've seen a lot, I've been in a lot of, and they're like, nah, man, they took me up into space. They're legit. Nah, man, swamp gas, man. You're crazy. And they spray you with rum. Look, he's been drinking. Number 8. I've actually never told anyone, but I was walking in the woods during the day. I'm coming to get you. I'm coming to get you. I'm coming to get you. I've actually never told anybody, but I was walking in the woods during the day, along a hiking trail that I had walked a few times before. As I reached the top of the hill, I saw on the trail, maybe 20 yards ahead of me, a thing that looked like a pile of hay. But it was moving? Kind of aimlessly scampering around the same spot. At first I thought it was a dog. Lots of hikers let their dogs run free, and it was colored like a golden retriever. But it had long ropey things dangling from it, like long dreadlocks, not like any dog I had ever seen. But not a concern. I kept walking, just thinking I was going to see a cool dog, but as I closed about half the distance, it stopped and stood up. It was as tall as a man and human-shaped, but head to toe covered in those ropey dreads, except for a black mask covering where its face would be. The mask didn't have features, just a black oval. It turned to me. I was frozen, scared shitless. And then it started dancing toward me. Look, I laugh out of horror, okay? I don't know if you guys, I can't, no. Like a tribal kind of jumping dance? With lots of arm and leg movements, not moving fast, but coming towards me. I turned and ran. I turned and ran. I turned and ran for probably 20 minutes until I was back at my car, never looking back. I don't like it anymore. As we finish the list of 30 creepy true sightings no one believes, we arrive at number 7. I worked at a small gas station in my small town when I was in my late teens. I was stocking sodas around the back in the storage room, and a man startled me, then apologized. He asked me for directions. He asked me for directions to Washington, D.C., and I gave him the best directions that I could. I sent him towards Philadelphia. He thanked me and went to his car. There was a kid about my age sitting in the passenger seat. He gave me the most evil stare that I'd ever seen. They pulled off, and I forgot about it until I got back to work. I remember watching the news sometime later, and they arrested the DC snipers. It was them for sure. It sent chills down my spine. I'm glad they spared me. I've only told a few people because I'm afraid they won't believe me. It still makes me feel a bit uncomfortable when I think about it. Holy shit. Oh boy. Number 6. A bouncy ball appeared out of thin air, hit me directly in the eye while I was riding a bike. It can't be funny. It can't be as funny to you guys because you can't imagine like the type of dance that he's doing. But like my dance is like really like, you'd have to see it in person, the one that I'm imagining. But it's really like gyratey, you know what I mean? And he's like moving at you like, I don't know, I need to be tribal, you know what I mean? Everything about that story was just bullshit. Number 5. About a year ago, I was up watching movies late at night when I got hungry and went downstairs for a snack. My room is across from my daughter's room, and her door was open. As I was coming back upstairs, I started turning left towards my room when I hear clear as ever, "Daddy, can you close my door?" I turn around, don't say much, and just close it. Once I'm back in my room, I lie down to watch TV, and it hits me. My daughter isn't there. She's spending the night at my parents' house. I get up and go to her room, and sure enough, it's empty. I woke up the wife, and she thinks I'm crazy. Says I was probably tired, maybe it was on TV. I remember the voice so clear, and coming in the direction of the room. It's very possible that this was just my head playing games, but it definitely made me question a few things. Bing bong. Number 4. One time a door to my house's office slammed open when I woke at 6 a.m. Naturally, it slowly opens on its own due to the weight distribution, but it slammed open like it was forced. It was 6 a.m. in the middle of winter, so no windows were open to create a draft. Everyone was asleep. I was too tired for some ghostly bullshit, so I peed. I went back to sleep. Number 3. I was out partying with my friends and came home pretty late. I didn't want my parents asking questions, so I snuck in through the garage. The door was locked, but I had a key. I turned the key to unlock it, but then I heard an abrupt snap and the door locked again. I repeated this 3 times. Each time I unlocked the door relocked. Exasperated, I cried out, "Mom, it's me." Then I heard the door unlock. I opened the door and no one was there. Number 2. I was 15 years old, was in Los Angeles for a convention and a Disneyland trip. There was a large group with us. My best friend and I were sitting next to each other on the bus. As we were driving from the airport, both my friend and I watched 2 people exit this house on the corner. One starts to run, and the other pulls a pistol out and guns him down. Then he shoots him again. We both looked at each other thinking, holy shit. We told some adults on the trip and they told us that we hadn't seen that and that it never happened. You didn't see nothing. Y'all didn't see nothing. Number 1. I saw something crouched in the road driving around one night. Its eyes glowed when my headlights hit it, so I assumed that it was an animal of some sort. But when I got within about 15 feet, it stood up and looked like a girl standing there. I slammed on my brakes immediately, then suddenly the road was empty. My friend in the car hadn't seen anything, but asked me a few minutes later if it looked like a girl. He'd apparently seen something similar with his sister a few weeks before in the exact same spot. Why did someone... Someone says, I travel a lot of remote locations for work, oil and gas in Texas, and the roads to our work sites are often long, unlit dirt roads. When working near the Mexican-Texas border, we are told to never stop if there's people blocking these roads. If anything, we should speed up and do our best to avoid contact, but if unable to do so, we are supposed to, whatever it takes, keep moving. Never stop. Never stop. Never stop. The illegal crossings include cartel-related operations. There was an incident not too long ago where a mechanic was leaving location late at night and he pulled over for whatever reason. Usually it's women or kids flagging down trucks and asking for water or for a ride, and someone came up behind him as he exited his truck and popped him in the head. Another person reported the body, and Border Patrol eventually found the truck. Don't fucking stop. Here's hoping that you enjoyed this list. If you're watching on YouTube, I tried to keep it together as I often do for some of the creepy ones, but you know, man, some of them break me, man. Some of them break me. I apologize. Hope you're having a fantastic day, evening, week. Maybe it's your birthday. Happy birthday. Maybe you're feeling sad. I'm here. I love you. Maybe you're feeling lonely. Go to the Discord. Send me a Snapchat. Maybe, you're looking for a new game to play. Look through the games that I've played that I didn't hate. Those are good games. And other than that, I just want to thank you for being you. Special thanks to my sponsors for being electric. You can feel it. It's electric. Boogie, woogie, woogie. I want to thank my patrons for being there, Thank them for being my friend in my time of need, in my hour of desperate, dying time tonight. I want to thank you all for doing what you do. Can't get enough of you. Without you, this couldn't work. I want to thank Nat. I want to thank everybody in the stream chat. Prelude, Jacob, Linda, Chuckster. I want to thank you all for just being dope as hell. And you'll see me again soon. Now either go to sleep, go get something to eat, or go have a day that hopefully ends fast. Don't stress. Don't stress. Love you. Bye.